Hello, everybody. My name is Boulevard. Welcome to Tournament Tactician, where I'm starting off the camera on me because the tier list it's here. It's if I put this tier list on Twitter, I would lose my job. I would be laughed out of everything, right? So there's a level of nuance to this tier list that I kind of wanted to preamble by appearing on camera first to talk to you about. So without further ado, I'm just going to stop burying the lead and pull it up. Last week I mentioned that I didn't want to put Yordles and Arms alone in Tier 1, and this week I almost put nothing in Tier 1. And I think this is the closest I've ever gotten to just leaving an empty Tier 1, which feels more correct than Yordles and Arms alone in Tier 1. So I want to clarify why I put it like that. So over here I have a little graphic that was professionally made by me. In a traditional card game, we would probably be looking at something like this. But Legends of Runeterra is not a traditional card game. It's almost impossible to have a triangle meta in a 3-deck format because not every Shurima lineup is triple Shurima. Sure, control is more often than not going to be triple control, but you literally cannot have a 3 Yordles and Arms lineup. The most that we're seeing is 2 because you'll get the P and the Z, and then you'll get the Demacia version. But there's no clear third Yordles and Arms deck, and as such, you will never have a triple Yordles and Arms lineup. The only player that's even really still running double is Genesis CCG. Instead, we can look to this for some guidance, but again, it's not super clear because we don't know what's getting paired with the Yordles and Arms. The control is not always triple control. The Shurima is not always triple Shurima, although like I would say that like 3x control is happening more than 1x control. 3x Shurima at this point is almost happening more than 1x Shurima because of the prevalence of control. But like this isn't even taking into account aggro. And, you know, there is a possibility that you're running like Riven Vi and Aphelios Victor and like a Lee Sin deck or something, and that doesn't really fit anywhere in this chart. So normally this is what we'd be looking at, but it's not, right? And I do want to clarify that we are not in triangle format. So what I wanted to do is with the most popular lineups that we're consistently seeing being triple control, triple Shurima, and then sort of this X factor that loses to control more often than not, is I wanted to highlight what I felt the best deck from each of those archetypes was and put that in Tier 1. For example, Yordles and Arms, sort of the best deck from the X archetype. That goes in Tier 1. What's the best control deck? It was Feel the Rush last week, but since then, we've gotten a big resurgence in both Shurima and Ionia, both like Victor Lee Sin and Spooky Viego and all this. So there's a lot more denies than there were when Triple Control was sort of running the game a week ago. And as such, I feel like Feel the Rush is no longer, or will no longer be the best control deck this weekend because it is one of the ones that is more susceptible to deny. Now, I don't know what's going to take its place. I don't have a very confident prediction. I really like how Spooky Viego is positioned, given that it doesn't really care about denies or quicksand. You know, it's playing more of this creature-based game. Viego is just getting very large. The invasive Hydrovines are doing their work. The things that are beating Feel the Rush are not necessarily doing as well against Spooky Viego. So, like, Spooky Viego is probably my pick for, like, the top dog of control right now. Maybe it's Sentinel Control. I actually took Sentinel Control off because I feel like control is too popular for Sentinel Control to be good. Maybe that was a mistake on my part. Maybe I'm making all these mistakes, right? This is a bit of an influx format. I'm playing hardball here. I'm going balls to the wall. I'm throwing out the rules. And I'm just kind of freeballing it a little bit is more of what I wanted to say. Not hardball, freeball. That's what we're doing here. So yeah, if I fuck up the tier list this month, it's not hurting anybody. There's no big events this weekend. We're all chilling, right? So now there's no control deck in Tier 1 because I cannot identify what the best control deck is because it was Feel the Rush, but I'm very confident it will no longer be Feel the Rush. Then the Shurima decks. What is the best Shurima deck? There is some debate. I feel like Ziggs Talia is the worst one, but I'm also not very big on Zillion Echo, and Zillion Echo is a whole nother can of worms that kind of got opened on Twitter today. Let me run you through the timeline of Boulevard and Zillion Echo, because famously I do very hate this deck. But no more than I don't have a specific vendetta against this. What happened was Zillion Echo came out, and I went, wow, this deck looks like dog shit. And you know what, chat? It performed like dog shit, so I was right on that one. Then I kind of left it alone, because I only talk about this deck when it's relevant, or people think it's relevant. And then Thrumming Swarm came out, and when I was shit-talking Zillion Echo on release, a lot of the sentiment that I was hearing from players was that Zillion Echo is only 1 or 2 good cards for the archetype being released off of being a good deck. And I was like, cool. So we're all in agreement that it's not a good deck because those 2 cards don't exist. No, quiet from Twitter on that one, but, you know, we read between the lines there. Thrumming Swarm comes out. People are like, this might be the card. We're not super confident on it. I'm like, I'm pretty confident it's not. We let that go. Sure, it simmers down. We don't hear from Zillion Echo for quite some time. Now Zillion Echo is back in a very big way, and this is the first time I've ever put it on the tier list because it is winning tournaments, and that's the outlier. When we look at the ladder stats for Zillion Echo, awful. Awful. 48% win rate deck. And there have been some decks that are better suited for tournament than ladder. Maybe that's Zillion Echo. The problem is that even on ladder, like, the high-performing Lee Sin players generally are going to, like, do very well anyway. The high-performing Zillion Echo players are not performing as well as the high-level players of any other deck, right? Like, by every metric that we can use to measure how good a deck is, Zillion Echo comes up short in all categories, except for its tournament success. But it's not even popular in tournaments, which is usually when you have a tournament, you don't want to just look at the winner. You want to look at the entirety of the top 8 to get a general picture of what the meta looks like. We're not seeing, 4 or 5 Zillion in Top Cut. We're only seeing 1 or 2. And they're winning the tournament, and that does hold merit, but not as much as a top 8 presence, I would say. So Zillion Echo's in a little bit of a weird spot for me. I don't think it's the strongest Shurima deck. I don't think Sundisk is the strongest Shurima deck. Like, it was also very difficult for me to identify what is the strongest Shurima deck, because I don't think it's Ziggs Talia, but I can't tell if that's bias on my part or if I've just watched it underperform quite a few times. So I didn't put a Shurima deck in Tier 1, because certainly they don't all belong there, and thus Yordles in Arms ends up alone in Tier 1, because I could not identify the best deck from the other 2 archetypes that we have within this pseudo-triangle that we do/do not have. So that leaves me to fill out the rest of the tier list, where, like, obviously these control decks are very good. Darkness, I think, is the worst control deck, so that goes in Tier 3. Zillion Echo might be the worst Shurima deck, therefore it goes in Tier 3. And then the other ones go in Tier 2. Now, Aphelios Victor has fallen off in popularity a little bit, but it's still in there. I think it's going to do fine. Like, this is still a solid deck. You can still outplay people with it. I think Aphelios Lux is something players are looking towards a little bit more, as it does lean a little bit harder into, like, that control-esque aspect. You can pair it with some of these other decks and be chilling, but that's really it. And then, like, these mid-range decks, like Sivir Demacia and Pantheon, like, they're good, and we all know that they're good, but they're not really finding great lineups within them. Like, Pantheon kind of gets farmed by aggro and control, making it an unappealing option, despite how good it is into, like, I think Pantheon is just in a weird spot when it comes to going up against 3 other decks, and it'll probably be able to beat one of them. I think the deck is still very powerful. It's performing very well on ladder. Maybe Pantheon should have been Tier 3. That's the thing. Like, it's none of it's clear. None of it's clear. And I've been in situations like this before, where I didn't have a great grasp of what was going on in the meta. I don't feel like that's the case here. I feel like nobody has a great grasp of what's going on in the meta. It's not just Boulevard this time. It's not me, having the blinders on or having all these outliers stick out. I don't think anyone has a phenomenal idea of what's going on. And back to the triangle, what this does do, the influence that we are garnering from this, is that it's very difficult to pick a lineup. It really is just like, there's nothing that feels great. There's no, like, solid default lineup that you can fall back on. If anything, it'd probably be a Yordles and Arms-esque lineup, but again, that is the least lineup-y out of these 3, because the other 2 decks that you want to pair with it are a total crapshoot. So that's kind of where we're at. That is the picture that I am getting painted from the tournaments that I have been seeing, from the discourse I've been seeing, from the ladder results, the Runeterra Academy, Golden Aegis tournament, I don't even remember what they changed their name to, and all that kind of stuff. So that's where I'm at. And I don't really have to go much further than that, because, as I had said, there are no tournaments this weekend. Hopefully Fight Night will happen on Monday, but I'm not even sure of that, given EU Fight Night and Brazil Fight Night not happening this week. But that's that. Very happy to bring you this very unhinged 99th Tournament Tactician, and I will be back next week for number 100, which normally would be special. I'd like to do a big thing for it, but it's the last week before a balance patch, so, like, I don't really love getting in depth on a meta when there's only 3 days of it left, so it is what it is. Anyway, follow me on Twitter, @casterboulevard. Subscribe to the Giant Slayer LOR YouTube channel, as that is where a bulk of my content is going these days. Don't forget to check out my articles. Click on my link tree down below, and you can find all of this. Thank you so much for watching. As always, my name is Boulevard. Good luck in your tournaments. Please don't at me.